Today we're going to be talking about the several teams that are actually starting to delve into Cartesi rollups and starting to show some exciting results. So today we bring something new here to share with you guys.
It'll be the first showcase of what's being built on the blockchain OS. So get excited, everyone.
Yeah.
And I'll just have to invite the teams up to speak here. But otherwise
we're good to go.
Good to go.
Right? So just to give you a heads up, we are going to be inviting today Carlo Fragni, which perhaps some of you already know him. He is our star on Discord. He has been helping a lot everyone that comes to Discord to learn about our tech, educating people around, and even helping these pioneering teams to create their solutions using Cartesi rollups. So Carlo Fragni is joining us today. He is lead architect at Cartesi, and I'm very excited to have him on the show tonight.
Me too. Yeah,
right?
Welcome, Carlo. And I think I just approved you, so let's make sure it's working.
Welcome. So today we're going to be here, Colin and I, but Carlo will also be managing a lot the show and also introducing other friends and teams who are working for Cartesi rollups. So let me just give you some context on the things that we're doing. I think this is a very exciting moment for all of us at Cartesi and whoever is following our project. Because we are getting very close to testnet, and we have these teams that are building several different kinds of applications for Cartesi rollups, be it games. Some teams are exploring computer vision. Some teams are exploring logistics applications. So there are different use cases being applied on Cartesi rollups, and that's very interesting because it shows the versatility of what we're building. These developers are, most of them, traditional Web 2 full stack developers who don't have a lot of experience or no experience whatsoever in blockchain development, and they're striking very interesting results using Cartesi rollups. I think that's very significant because we truly believe that blockchain tech is only at the beginning, right? We are still scratching the surface of everything that blockchain is promising to bring to society and to the web, and etc. Normally we talk a lot about the disruption that blockchain will bring to the web, but I also see a great disruption and lots of good possibilities for coders, for developers. Right? It has never been so easy for developers around the world to gather together around some creative, out-of-the-box idea and communicate with like-minded people around the world, form communities or even DAOs, fundraise and fund their dreams. So this is very exciting. I think it's a new model, a new way of doing things, and a whole new possibility for coders around the world. And we, as a group, as Cartesi, we want to empower these developers to pursue their dreams. And we are doing that specifically by bringing the tools, the environments, the languages and libraries that they are used to. And today we're going to have the chance to talk about it in practice, because we're going to have here on the show teams that are working on it. So without further ado, I'd like to intro again Carlo, if someone was not here when I introed him. Carlo is, some of you know, he's always present on Discord. He's helping several people, several teams to create their pioneering applications on Cartesi rollups. And he's a lead architect at Cartesi. So he has been working together with his teams and has a lot to share here today. So I'll pass now the mic to Carlo so he can give a few words about his work, especially his work with these teams, and he's going to introduce the team's works.
Okay, thanks Eric. It's nice being here today. It's a sunny day here in Rio, Brazil. Very nice. It's a very exciting time to be in Cartesi. Right now we have a lot of really amazing things coming to the blockchain for the first time. We're really pushing boundaries of what DApps can do, right, with our tech. And we have all these amazing people that are developing really interesting stuff with our tech. They're pushing the boundaries. They're doing really novel stuff. It's really amazing to be in this project at this moment. So just to talk about these teams a little bit, we have, as you said, people with really different backgrounds. We have people that are students. We have Web2 developers. We have Web3 developers. We have game developers. So it's a really different composition of people, right? Different ideas, backgrounds, and they're all doing this really amazing job. Talking a bit about the DApps that are being developed at the moment. We have, for instance, DAX POC that's being developed by an external team from Dakai, which is really interesting because with that we are basically getting the best of two worlds, right? So centralized exchanges have all these functionalities that couldn't be done on DAXs because of the constraints on both computational power, costs, and also the tooling, right? Because for some things you do need some more sophisticated tooling to express your ideas. And with the blockchain OS, this is becoming a reality. It's a very nice thing that's coming together. These are the team from Sodatex. These guys are from Vietnam. They're doing another very interesting stuff, which is a voting DApp that can be used as a DAO, as a decentralized autonomous organization, right? So DAOs are also something that are really bounded today because they still have to be optimized for gas usage and also the amount of computation it can do. And with the power of the blockchain OS, they're also able to do very sophisticated stuff. They can have a database keeping track of everything, so you don't have to lock funds like in traditional DAO voting systems. It's really cool. We have another team that's working on a game. So it's a chess game. It's a Poland team. It's called Scalable. And these guys are developing this really cool chess DApp, which is very interesting. As you guys might have seen on an article from us before, chess has this problem about people playing with bots, right? So, and when you think it's a bot, you just lose the match because you play too well. And there's a transparency issue with that. Making this a DApp, you have everything in there. There's no issue on that. It's everything on the table, right? Then we have another team that's a traditional Web2 software house, right? It's Web Chefs. They're also from Poland, and they're gonna do an interesting geofencing application. So this is very important for stuff like, let's say you want to make an Uber or something like that, and if your car gets off the route, you charge for extra, these kind of things. So this is the kind of application that opens up a lot of doors on this area, right? About the other teams, well, we got them here, so I guess we'll start listening from them, right? It's a good idea. I'd like to start with Locus. So Locus is this Brazilian software house, and they're really doing something very interesting with our tech, right? They're pushing a lot the boundaries. As you guys know, we have Linux to run our DApps, and well, everything that you can run on Linux at first you can run on the Cartesi machine. And these guys from Locus, they're really pushing it. They're getting like really interesting libraries and really interesting stuff to run inside of the Cartesi machine. So Locus, for instance, is a team that has used OpenCV inside the Cartesi machine. For the ones that don't know, OpenCV is this amazing Linux library that's used basically on every mobile phone you have on the planet, every camera, everything. It runs OpenCV inside of it. It does things like recognizing objects, faces, tracking faces, all this kind of stuff is done with OpenCV. It's really a base block on anything you want to do with image processing. And these guys from Locus, they use this. And they're also bringing machine learning inside the Cartesi machine, so it's a really interesting thing. Well, without further ado, I want to hear from Marcus, which is here with us today. He's from the Locus team. Welcome, Marcus. And can you talk a little bit more about the application you're developing with us, like the biometric one?
Hey everyone, it's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, I can talk about the DApps we developed in the past few months. Related to machine learning, pattern recognition, and computer vision, as you said before. And for the last one, we also cross-compiled the well-known OpenCV or PC5. And the mission was like replicate the examples in those topics that we found already in the web too, like using machine learning models to predict scenarios and feature extraction to use as input for a classifier model. Everything we do everything inside the Cartesi machine. So the mission was do this for develop our DApps, like we have one to predict if you survive or not in the Titanic incident, or we have also another DApp that does a small classification problem, like for the famous iris dataset. It's a really famous dataset in the computer vision and these classification problems. And we also have the biometric DApp that reunites everything we learned in the past few months, that we actually extract features from the fingerprint that is out in the image, and we extract features like using the text tree feature extractor, like LDP, but it could be any other feature extractor. And then we classify this fingerprint as a live fingerprint or fake. We know that we have those problems, especially here in Brazil, that we have some problems like spoof attacks with silicones and glues, and everything related to it's easy to fake a fingerprint. So it is a problem that we have in the computer vision already, and we try to replicate this example in the using the Cartesi API and Web3, because this is relevant, because there are already studies how to enhance security in a trustless ecosystem. So biometrics can be the solution for that, or if it doesn't, any concept related to computer vision can be helpful for that. And that is why we are using OpenCV. With OpenCV you can do almost everything related to computer vision. It's to sum up, it's what I'm working in the past few months.
Yeah, that's really interesting, right? Because let's say we have a DApp in which we want to authorize things using our fingerprint. Someone could just pick up an image of our fingerprint, like they just literally printed one, and would try to do stuff. And this system is for this, right? Because if they pick up this scanned fingerprint image of yours on a piece of paper, this is the kind of thing that this system should detect. It should tell, oh, it's not a real person fingerprint, it's something made up, so I'm going to refuse it. And that's a really interesting security feature especially for dApps and stuff like this, right?
Yeah. That's why we are exploring all we have in the biometrics, but we are bringing this to Web3. It's a computer vision and everything related is really relevant for the science in general. So we had to do this in the Web3 as well.
I'd like to jump in here quickly. Marcus, congratulations on this work. It's amazing what you guys are pulling off there. I'm very impressed. I'd like to say that just to make it clear, if some people here don't really understand the global context of what we're talking about here, if you were to implement a computer vision backend logic on a smart contract platform, be it on Ethereum or on Polygon or Arbitrum or Optimism, whatever layer 2 solution, aside from the computational limits that you would have to face, you would have to develop things using Solidity language, right? So with Solidity, of course, you don't have an operating system, then you don't have any of these libraries and software that were crafted and matured throughout several years by so many people, right? So if someone wanted to implement anything like this on another smart contract platform, first they would have to come up with something similar to OpenCV in Solidity, which would be an immense undertaking, right? So this, just to give you an idea of what this opens up for developers, you can just take an open source software and use it in your smart contracts. So very nice what you guys are doing. Congrats. So maybe Carlo, you want to take from here?
Yeah, sure. So as Eric said, this is a huge leap. It's not something that you would easily do on top of the blockchain, both because you have serious constraints of what you can process, costs, and also because you basically have to redo all this tooling. These things, they're built one on top of the other, right? They take advantage. It's like if you go back to the Stone Age and you have to redo everything from scratch, instead of using all the industry machinery, all the stuff that's already in place, right? And OpenCV is like this really complex stuff that uses a lot of foundations that are set into other libraries, also operating system, and nothing is in there for you to take advantage of if you're not using a blockchain like Linux and you're operating directly on the EVM, for instance. So that's a very interesting point. Another thing that Marcus has done, as he said, is this machine learning DApp, right? So it's very exciting because for the first time we actually have a DApp in which you have this machine learning model running inside the DApp itself. It's not using the blockchain just to communicate and running into some centralized system. It's actually running in decentralized trustless logic, right? Can you talk a little bit more about this, Marcus, about this Titanic survival estimator?
Yeah, this app is we are using model. We can use some models, but we are actually using SVM model inside the Cartesi machine, and the whole process about to classify like if you survive or not, considering the inputs you have. It's done inside the blockchain, so it couldn't be possible if I don't have the Cartesi API, because well, everything is coded with the Web2 languages like Python. I'm actually using Python for this that, but I could use also C++ and with OpenCV as well, but I'm using Python for this one, and it actually do the whole classification process inside the blockchain. So the DApp will ask for some inputs like your age, your gender, and where you embark for the Titanic cruise. And for that, it does the classification like if you could survive or not in the accident. It's more like that. But the point is, we are using, as you said, we are using the machine learning for do this classification, everything inside the Cartesi machine.
And you've done this model by using regular stuff that you're used to when you're developing Web 2 applications, right? It's the same framework you're using, so no learning curve and all the power that you're used to.
Yeah, exactly. Everything I already used it before in Web 2, and I'm actually using in the Web 3 thanks to the Cartesi API.
Cool, that's awesome. Thanks, Marcus. Your job is just amazing. You're doing incredible work. You're really pushing the boundaries of what you have in DApps, and it's great to have you on board. Let's talk a bit more now about another integrator, another team. So this team is developing a really interesting application, right? And this application is actually a game. This company that's doing this is traditionally a gaming company, and they also have Web3 experience. It's the Atheros team, and they're doing this really interesting game. So it's basically a mashup between a puzzle game like Candy Crush with a strategy game like Pokemon or some other turn-based RPG, right? And you put them together. They're developing this game using Rust, which is a well-known language for a lot of people, and it's a beloved one for the ones that use it. And I'm really excited to see how it's coming. So I'd like to invite Dennis from Everest to talk a bit about it.
Hey everybody, thanks for having us. My name is Dennis. I'm a co-founder at Atheros. And like Carlo said, we are basically a company trying to find the intersection between video games and Web3. Right now, we're currently building a prototype using the Cartesi rollups. And like Carlo said, it's like Bejeweled in any kind of match 3 game, except you have characters that are basically represented as NFTs, and the idea is you would match up against other people based on playing this kind of match 3, turn-based match 3, and each character basically has unique skills that you can use on each other until eventually one of the players wins. So the idea is putting these kinds of server game logic inside the blockchain allows us to run stuff like fair tournaments and basically allow transparency for every game that is actually run through the service, as opposed to having it traditionally Web 2 having like a centralized game server doing all the logic. And obviously that also comes with all the other Web 3 types of benefits, like eventually we could probably have governance built around it, so we can move the game and basically evolve it the way the industry would like, as the fans start getting onboarded.
Yeah, so this is very interesting. So basically, you have a couple of really nice new elements in here, right? So if you take a look at what games on the blockchain do today, they basically use the blockchain for the NFT parts, right? And then what the blockchain says is, okay, so you have this thing, but what this thing represents in the game, it's not decentralized. It's just an identifier, a tag. And then from night to day, for instance, the game developer can just pick up that mighty NFT that's a legendary sword or something that's really powerful and nerf it and turn it into a junk item or something else, right? And because the logic of the game itself, it's not on the blockchain. It's not something transparent and set in stone. And on your game, the actual logic is inside the blockchain. So that changes everything, because you have a whole new level of transparency and of commitment to the players. And as you said, generally when you have a game, balancing, which is a very important issue in the gaming industry, is done by the game developer itself, and players have no saying about it. They just have to deal with it. But with a decentralized game, you can have this balancing done by a DAO, and then players do have a voice. Everyone that plays the game can go in there and say, "Hey, I think this item is too strong. Let's make it a bit weaker." Oh no, this item now it's not good enough. Let's improve it a little bit, and then it becomes a democratic process instead of a dictatorship, right?
Correct. I think the biggest draw, like you said, is that basically the whole server game logic is actually in the machine, the virtual machine. So as a smart contract, anybody that's done any kind of game development in the past would probably know that server logic could get pretty complicated as the games evolve. And also, if you look at using, say, the standard Solidity, basically industry standard Solidity these days, you're going to run into lots of limitations right off the bat. Probably the first thing you're going to run into for server-side game logic would be having smart contracts that are too large. Then you're basically going to have to break them up into sub-smart contracts, and eventually it just gets very complicated. But being in the virtual machine, we basically are given the freedom to use whatever programming language we want, and also whatever virtual libraries that could run in a RISC-V processor. So that's pretty much anything in Linux, basically. So that's one of the biggest draws for us, and biggest kind of light bulb moments is realizing that we can do that.
And also you can have like a traditional game developer that doesn't know anything about Web3, right? And just get him started right away, because he's still programming in the language that he was used to, right?
Yeah, and basically all the tools that they're used to, right? If your game server usually relies on, say, some kind of SQL database or something, go ahead, just do it in the VM, and everything gets abstracted away. That's not something you can do on Solidity, for example.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the games you guys are developing. It's turning out really nicely, and I'm really looking forward to play it. Actually, a lot. Yeah, I'm a gamer, so I'm especially looking forward to this.
Yeah, we're really excited. Keep everybody posted when it's ready on the testnet for people to try.
Okay, moving on to another team that's developing something really interesting with us. It's also a game. We have Productive. So we have Lacho here with us, and their team is also developing a game. It also has this interesting approach. They're doing a battleship game, right? Battleship, it's a classic game. I think everybody knows about it. So you have these two boards, you place your ships in there, and you try to guess where the ships of your opponent are. And when you hit them all, you basically win the game, right? And so we have this being developed by this team from Productive. It's getting really nice, and this game, it's a bit peculiar because, like poker and other games, you depend on stuff that should be hidden, but since they're using the blockchain, everything is public, right? So there's some technical challenges on handling this. Let's take it from Lacho, which is here with us, and talk a bit about the experience on developing Cartesi. He's a traditional Web2 developer, a lot of background in multiple stuff, ranging from low-level programming to web interfaces. And I'd like to hear from him about the experience on getting along with Cartesi, start developing for the Cartesi machine, and the experience of developing this really cool battleship game.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Ochu from Productive. We're using Cartesi virtual machine to build our battleship game. We are building it as a general platform for turn-based games. Until now, we are using the battleship as just a proof of concept. So the idea is that the game server logic runs inside the Cartesi machine on the blockchain. and basically all the communication between the players goes over the blockchain. The challenges that we have, as Carlo said, in this type of game is that initially the players have to declare their position for their ships on the board. So it could be visible on the blockchain, and the other player could see the real position and instantly win the game. So we have a way to hide this. This will be encrypted and revealed at the end of the game. So both the positions are exposed and hidden at the same time.
And about this framework you're developing, it's really nice, right? Because basically what you're doing is using the rollup framework, you already have a pretty inviting environment, but you're actually building a framework so that if you want to develop a turn-based game like Battleship or any other, you can just use this, and it's even faster and easier because you deal with sending the moves from one player to another, whose turn is it, all this base logic that all the turn-based games share, it's going to be there, right? So the next person developing a game will be able to do it even faster than you, right?
Yes, that's right. The main idea of the platform is just to facilitate the communication over the blockchain and send the player turns. Battleship game has a pretty simple logic as a game. So we came with this to implement as a proof of concept.
And since you have a lot of computation power and resources, right, you're basically inside a Linux machine, you can get really creative, right? So, for instance, you can do some physical simulation to add some randomness on the shots, right? Real battleships, when they shoot, they don't always hit exactly where they want. So you can model this kind of stuff, right? Like there's a strong wind that pulls the bullet on the side and things like this, right? So you can really get creative on that.
Yes, this is part of the game's logic, and the developer can get very creative with the rules of the game.
Yeah, that's really cool. And you're developing the game using Python, right?
Yes, it's Python. The game server is written in Python and runs inside the Cartesi virtual machine, and actually it can support a lot of simultaneous games between different players. And for the front end, it's just a plain web application written in JavaScript. But it could be written in any language and technology of the developers. So it could be Unity with some nice graphics and so on.
Yeah, so it's really nice because basically you've set up this Battleship game, which is transparent. It's on a blockchain. Everyone can check what's going on. And you have this really clever mechanic about not revealing the opponent board before the game ends, right? Because if you know your opponent's board, it's easy, right? You just shoot wherever their ships are and game over. And yeah, and you don't have to worry about, let's say I'm gonna play with you and I host the match. I can just go in there and just take a peek at your board and yeah, and just win the game, right?
This logic is also applicable for different kinds of games where the player has to declare his positions but keep them hidden from the opponent.
Yeah, so this way we have the guarantees that no one is cheating, and at the same time you keep all the secrecy and stuff that was supposed to be in the game in the first place, right? So it's the best of the two worlds. Yeah, it's really cool. Well, also I'm really looking forward to play your game. It's shaping up really nicely. I'm looking forward to spend a couple of hours playing with my teammates, especially. I hope I win the matches so they don't bother me with this for the rest of the time. And yeah, it's really nice having you along. Switching to a different team now. So we have this team is composed of university people, right? So We have a college professor from the Federal University of Niterói, which is a city here in Brazil. And we have a couple of undergrad and graduate students, right? And these guys are developing some interesting applications. So their focus is basically on things that relate to public goods. So one of the systems is meant to track bus itineraries, right? So they basically check if the buses are on time on the stops where they should be, and in case they aren't, they just issue a fine for it. And another application they're developing is related to this privacy handling of personal information, right? So they're making a database application in which applies some of these privacy rules, especially the ones in Brazil, which are very similar to the European ones, like the having control of how your data is being used, the right for you to delete it, all these kind of things, right? So to speak in behalf of this team, we have here Guto, which is the professor from UF, right? So welcome, Guto. How are you doing?
Hello, so thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. And as you said, I have 4 students working this project. I'm very excited about the project. I'm very enthusiastic about Cartesi OS solutions. So it's always a pleasure to talk about those 2 projects that we are developing here at the university. Okay, so as you said, we have these 2 ideas, and we have discussed a lot about these. As you are from Brazil, you know a little bit more about our reality. But let me tell a little bit more for those that are not from Brazil. So the first solution that tried to deal with these bus route things, here in Brazil, we have this system in the public transportation that the government, they hire a company to make all of this public work for the society. And sometimes the company, they basically try to break the rules, right? They try to cut the path or try not to follow the bus time. And the solution that we are coming up has this idea of having IoT devices installed in a bus, in vehicles, and having these IoT devices installed in bus stops. We can try to come up with a solution that try to find the company that do not run over the bus times scheduling. So we are very excited about this. The students, they are very excited about this, and the solution looks very interesting, not only for the purpose of learning this so nice technology, but also we look for the possibility of applying this solution to real administration in the municipality of Niterói, for example. So the university has a very tight connection to the administrative of the city, and so one possibility is try to really make these working on the buses and the bus stops to try to regulate the relation in between the companies and the municipality administration. Because to tell the truth, actually here in Brazil, they don't trust each other, right? Because they believe that the government, they want to find more the company than really what happens, and the company always try to improve or maximize the profits, right? So I see here a great opportunity to make these as a solution for something that really may help the society. Yeah, this is the first project.
And on this project, you really have like a rather complex processing of this data, right? Because you can cross-reference the data with other data points measured by other devices to check if the measurement is accurate, all these kind of things. And this kind of processing, it's complex, and it's also more than what you could do directly on the blockchain, right? So by doing this inside the Cartesi machine, you have the flexibility, the tools to do this analysis, and you also have the computational power, and of course it's economically viable, unlike if you did this directly on the blockchain, right? And this is a classic scenario in which a Web3 solution is really nice, because you have the parties involved, they don't trust each other. They actually want to declare things that benefit them as opposed to the other parties involved. So as you said, the city hall guys, they just want to issue more fines because that increases the amount of money the government gets. Sometimes there can be corruption involved. So one of these guys can just go to the bus company, say, hey, give me $100 or else I'll fine you, and stuff like this. The bus company, on the other hand, they might be inclined of not following the schedule, right? So when people are going to work and coming back home, there's a lot of demand, so the buses are full and they have a large profit. So they put the bus in the street. Then on those cold hours in which you have just a couple of people on the bus and you're running at a loss, they're tempted at not running as many buses as they should, or deviating the itineraries because they will save on gas on parts that don't usually have lots of passengers, this kind of thing, right? So a decentralized system can just enforce that everything works fine, despite both parties having incentives to do something nasty, right? To tamper with the system, right?
Yeah, exactly. You really got the point. So, and as you said, we have a big motivation here to develop such application, and what we are really looking forward to see these on production in a real case like Niterói City Hall, for example. These would be really nice in the future to see these really happening. So we look for this possibility.
Yeah, I'm also really excited about the possibility of having this in our city, right? It'd be really nice to have such a avant-garde method to control that buses are actually doing what they should. And yeah, I think this benefits the whole population. It's also good for the bus companies and also for the government, right? So when everything works and no cooperation is needed for things to go smooth, I think it's a really powerful thing that Web3 systems enable. And particularly with our technology, we can do a rather complex system to handle this case.
I find this example, Antonio, congrats. It's very interesting what you guys are pulling off. By the way, I was born in Niterói, so I will be very happy to see this working out there. But the story also reminds me of how the blockchain space evolved, because we started the project back in 2018, and back then, all the narrative around enterprise blockchain, private blockchains was still very alive, and lots of big companies were pursuing solutions like Hyperledger and many other private blockchains to try to form consortia to solve some logistics problems, supply chain problems, and so on and so forth. But I think most of these companies, they at some point they came up with prototypes, but these things just got moldy on the shelf and never became actual products and revolutionary as they thought. And one of the reasons why this failed back then with enterprise blockchains, because it was just an absolute hell to form a consortium, to get all these parties that don't, they have a common interest, but to put them together around the table and make them sign and collaborate on a project for each one of them to run the blockchain nodes, this was very hard to pull off. And now here you have, public blockchains have evolved a lot since then. And now with the advent of layer 2 technologies like rollups, and especially what we're doing with Cartesi, I think we are much closer, because this problem of putting people together to run a private or enterprise blockchain won't be around. You can just use a public network. Nobody has to trust anyone. It's there, right? It's verifiable, it's transparent, it's robust. So it's very interesting. I'm very bullish on logistics and supply chain use cases for Cartesi.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I totally agree with you. So it's a great opportunity to see these all coming through. I don't know if I have a few more minutes, but let me say a little bit more about the second part of the project, which is the privacy thing. We all know that all information that we make available for different companies, we are now being regulated, or we have several laws that try to regulate this. And inspired by these, we are trying to come up with a solution to try to offer something like, if the company that wants to use my information, they will certify that whenever I give up the allowance to use my information, this information is not being used anymore. So let's say that we have a company like Google or Facebook or whatever using my information. Once they say, look, I don't want this information to be used anymore, all the AI algorithm that has been used, they have to be retrained to force that none of my information will be used to take the decisions about the algorithms. So this is something that we are working on, that offer a solution based on a blockchain and machine learning algorithms, that all the information once has been of any kind of customer or client or user, once this information has been or permission has been removed or give up, all the algorithms must be trained, and there is a way to certify that these algorithms are not really using my information or to take the decisions. So this is a second project that we are working on, and we are also very excited about this possibility.
Yeah, getting back to the power of how your information is used and actually seeing that it's happening and not only trusting is a very interesting part of the systems, right? Thank you very much, Guto. It was really interesting hearing from you guys. Thanks to all of you guys. It was really nice.
If you give me just one quick minute, is the following. I think different from all the other projects we are here at the university, and it's very interesting to see how the students, they get excited about this technology, which is different from you are in a company or something like that, right? So they shouldn't get very involved and they are very excited about this.
Yeah, it's really nice seeing the next generation of engineers so excited about our tech, right? It's something that just drives us forward as well.
But Antonio, that is really amazing to hear.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about that.
Very exciting. And
congrats on the progress so far.
And by the way, thanks a lot, Antonio, Dennis, Marcus, Lacho, for your presence here and sharing with all of us here in the community the progress you guys are having with Cartesi rollups. And just quick notes, we're gonna make sure that on our website, all these applications and prototypes and things that you guys are developing are gonna be easily accessible from the Cartesi website when things are ready. So let's move on now quickly. I'd like to let Colin talk a little bit about this TSI token. I think it's an important topic that usually the community wants to hear more about, the token and the utility of TSI. So I'll let Colin say a few words about it.
Sure, yeah. So yeah, congrats everyone on the progress. Really, really excited to hear about it. And thank you for presenting that to everyone in the community. Can't wait to see what comes next. So yeah, I'll just give a short intro of what's to come for utility on CTSI. So as everyone is familiar with right now, CTSI is currently powering our proof of stake system. And as everyone may not be familiar with unless you follow our development recaps closely, we are actually also working on an upgrade to this proof of stake system. And we've been designing this generic selection system that will be used to incentivize mass participation in every aspect of the future Cartesi network. And what this aspect is called is the scheduler. So the scheduler is this mechanism that enhances the roles and capabilities of block producers in the proof of stake system. So with the migration to what we're calling the proof of stake 2.0, it'll actually be possible to allow participants to make much more than simply produce blocks in this proof of stake system, but actually enhance the services of Cartesi rollups while keeping the same level of decentralization. So we're really excited about the utility that will come along with this. So in the long term, CTSI will kind of serve as the economic incentives in our rollups to enable decentralized validation of the Cartesi rollups themselves, as well as help significantly in decentralizing our future aggregator for Cartesi rollups. So the scheduler will actually allow the aggregator to be selected at random in a fully decentralized way. So in addition, similar to how you can imagine it on Ethereum, we're actually also exploring several ways in how CTSI will control the block space in layer 2 for Cartesi rollups. So there's lots of exciting information on this to come. So we're actually going to be working on a full CTSI utility article to come in the future. So everyone can look forward to that.
Awesome. Thanks for the update on the CTSI utility. So now I think we can spare some time for Q&A, right?
Absolutely.
Let anyone make questions and you can have an open discussion. Before we do that, I want to know if Carlo or any of the previous speakers want to say a few words. Otherwise, we can just jump into community questions, and anyone can raise a hand to ask.
Yeah, just one. If you want to speak after, if anyone has any last comments, just request it and I'll enable you to speak.
So one of the questions we get is, for instance, that a lot of people see other projects saying that they offer Python or JavaScript or other things for developers, right? And people really don't get the difference between that and what we offer. So basically, if you look at these other projects, what they do is they still have a constrained environment that defines what can or cannot be done by their own VMs, right? So let's pick Algorand as an example. If you program a smart contract in Python using Algorand, you are speaking in Python, but you're not really programming in Python. You cannot use whatever you want. You cannot come here and use a machine learning library like Marcus used, or use OpenCV to process something. You're just constrained to the same things that their VM allows, but you can express that in Python syntax. So yeah, it's not really the same stuff, right? You don't have the full access of what Linux would offer you. You just are able to express yourself in a language that you know, but you're very, very, very limited on what you can do. So that's a really popular topic. People are generally confused because they say, oh, you can do Python in Cartesi. Well, you can also do Python on Algorand, but it's a totally different thing, right? It's like if you ask for what you can eat and you have like two options, bread and cookies, because that's all that EVM offers. And then with us is like if you get on a shopping cart with all these restaurants, all the things that you're used to, and you can choose to eat whatever you want. And what is in common is that you're using English to say what you want to eat. But what's available to you, it's completely different, right? So that was one of the common questions we have. Eric, you want to go for the next one?
Yeah, and also one just one addition to what you said, because sometimes also you see projects. There are many projects that allow developers to connect their front end to the blockchain using a Python API or a JavaScript API. So that's very different from you developing your smart contracts in Python or JavaScript or whatever, right? So it's another distinction to be made clear here. So let's talk about the next question. I think games should not have an economic model. They should be played for fun, not play to earn. What's Cartesi's take on this one? Carlo, want to take this one?
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm a gamer myself, so I think that games should be fun, and then you put the economic model on top of it. But making a game that doesn't make sense, it's just collecting NFTs or stuff like that, because you might get money or not, and then those NFT crashes and no one plays it anymore, or the NFTs get really expensive and you as a genuine gamer cannot play. It's not something cool. I think we can actually ask for Dennis' take on this one, right? He's like a game specialist.
Yeah, that's actually how we view it as well. I mean, if you look at NFT-based games these days, it's not really, they call it play to earn, but I really think it's called pay to earn, right? Because you have to buy your shoes before you can go walk, right? You have to go buy your characters before you can play. As opposed to the traditional gaming model where you just play the game and you accrue or accumulate assets, right? And the value of the asset should be based on just, how rare the item is itself. It shouldn't be some kind of artificial scarcity or artificial, special event, limited edition, blah, 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 just so that, you can drum up some kind of intrinsic initial value for an NFT. So we definitely don't want to walk down that path.
Yeah, and I also see that there are different trends when you think about games on Web3 blockchain. I see there is a group of people that want to have games mixed with assets that do have a value on secondary markets. Basically games that are mixed with some financial angle to it. And of course, you can go to the extreme of these, let's say, school of thoughts, and then you have play to earn, and you said very well, it's more like pay to earn. Basically, the games are not intrinsically fun. People are there to make their bucks, and what happens is that usually this thing is not sustainable in the long run, right? Because people are not there except for the money. But there are other people trying to explore play and earn, what they call play and earn, which is, okay, let's try to bring back some the real spirit of fun to games, and also allow it to be mixed with some financial or things that have actual value in the outside world. But the core value of the game is not the making bucks. The core value is having fun. And then perhaps this model will succeed and thrive in the long run. And this kind of experiment I'm willing to see as well. I think we are well positioned for this kind of experimentation with Cartesi rollups. Now, there is another school of thought. There is another group of people that I also totally respect, that think, no, games should not have any financial aspect to it whatsoever. And people should only be there for fun, and if you bring anything that has economic value, you intoxicate, contaminate the gameplay, and you ruin it somehow. And there are some people doing some interesting things around this, right? You see projects like Dark Forest, who are developing games on top of ZK rollups, and people only play this game only for the sake of fun. And the game is developed on the blockchain to enjoy very interesting properties of privacy, cryptography, and also running the game without having to pay for a server and things like this.
Cool. If you guys have any questions, you can just raise your hand, okay?
So the last question before probably we wrap up soon is, so Cartesi onboards developers in a quicker way, but how is it different from Subsquid and the Graph? They're also making it easier and more attractive for devs to build on blockchain with data indexing services that ease the experience for developers. Eric, do you want to take that one?
I can talk a bit if you want. So basically the Graph and Subsquid are really interesting projects. The Graph itself, we use them. For instance, on the Cartesi Explorer, we use some statistics that come from the blockchain. And the Graph really eases our burden, right? Because instead of going through a haystack on the blockchain data, you can just put up a GraphQL interface in which you get the data that you want, that's continuously indexed with what happens on the blockchain. So yeah, they are very interesting, and they help a lot when you're dealing with blockchain data from layer one, like Ethereum and these other guys. But it's a very different approach for us, right? So when you're developing something on Cartesi, you are developing it inside a full Linux machine. So if you want to store things on a database, which is a very convenient way for developers, you can do it. We have these developers that are using SQLite database, and you just go there, you use SQL, you're used to it, it's familiar, it works, it's a proven technology used for decades. Every financial system, critical system in the world basically uses a SQL database. So it's battle tested, right? And it's easy for you to retrieve information. You don't have this problem about information all over the place that you have when you're dealing with the blockchain directly, which is what Subsquid and the Graph aim to ease, right? So yeah, basically you can use those tools. They're really cool, but they have a different scope than we do.
Yeah, exactly. It's a totally different scope. In our case, we are actually operating at the level of the smart contracts platform itself, right? So instead of expressing your smart contract logic in Solidity and being constrained by the EVM and things like this, you can use Linux. And these projects, they are working around the blockchain space to facilitate the connection with the blockchain, gathering data, accessing data. It's a totally different realm.
Absolutely. So we just have a question from the crowd here. Danielle Gomez, did you want to go ahead?
Yeah, if someone wants to give the teams that were speaking before, if you guys want to give any final words or recommendation for Web3 or Web2 developers, that's also nice. Dennis, do you have perhaps a couple words to give of encouragement to blockchain developers?
Blockchain developers in general, or
application DApp developers, and inspired on what you guys have been doing with Dinder and Cartesi.
Yeah, I mean, I really recommend people give it a try because, if you're just getting into Web3 development and making DApps, just learning Solidity is just already a time sink, right? Or even getting used to how things work in terms of, blockchain transactions and events, and then, you have to do your off-chain, basically projection of the events and store your own database. It's just a lot quicker trying to build directly in the Cartesi rollups, so you could just use an HTTP interface to work with the blockchain, basically.
Awesome. All right, so is the other person here able to talk now or not yet? Otherwise,
I think.
Anyone else?
Hello, did you have a question?
Hi, hello. Just a question. So it sounds very exciting, all these games, which are being test run on Cartesi. I was wondering, is there an opportunity for the community to potentially play some of these games, even if it's the beta version, maybe give some feedback, or just to see what it's like, running these games, or even demos of these games on the Cartesi infrastructure?
For sure. Once they are ready and running on testnet, we'll make sure to make them very easy and accessible for all of you guys here. We're gonna have a specialized section on the website that will link easily to all of these applications.
Oh, thank you. And just curious, in terms of timing, do you know roughly when that might be? Maybe, do you think before the end of this year, or when do you think the community can generally expect?
We're getting very, very close to testnet. Now you guys can see all the progress that we're making and send reports, bi-weekly about things that are happening. So we are actually getting very close to testnet now. We are also preparing to go to several conferences in later this year, and to showcase these things in the conferences too. All right, everyone. Colin, don't say any final words?
No, that was really great. Thank you for all the questions, and thank you to the speakers. Really enjoyed the session.
Yeah, I enjoyed a lot as well. So everyone here, please keep an eye out on our socials. We're going to be releasing every single story here one by one.
And keep an eye out for the stories you haven't seen yet as well.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
it's a
everyone.
Pleasure.
Great pleasure.